It's going to be a little bit about the infotainment system in the 2019 Polo GTi Plus. You've got the standard 8-inch screen here, and let's delve right in. You're pretty limited actually in what you can view. So at the minute this is just like the standard performance counter. So obviously you've got your turbo pressure in there, you can have it in PSI, bar, whatever you prefer. Standard G meter, self-explanatory. And I personally have it on oil temperature, because obviously I want to know how hot my oil is before I boot it. You can scroll through easy enough. Engine power in kilowatts. I don't deal in kilowatts, deal in brake horsepower, so it's useless to me because you can't change that. Coolant temperature, I've already got that on the infotainment display, don't need it. So yeah, you're quite limited. Lap timer, self-explanatory again. If I ever do take it on track, I'll be able to use that. But ultimately, I'm not going to be able to use that. So, if I press car again, you can see your standard things like your consumption. This is basically saying to you whatever electronics you've got turned on has an impact on your mile per gallon, and it's minimal anyway. So if I have the fan on, I'll show you in a second. If I turn that on now, bang, you've got air conditioning using next to no fuel. Put the rear heater on, you can see how much that uses. If I press car again, you've got a bit of mile per gallon information. So since I started it up, 11.5, we can ignore that. Long term, since I've had it, I've done 401 miles in it, and an average of 37.4, which I don't think is too bad for what it is. And since refueling, I've got even more, 40 tick gallon, which is very impressive, I think. Press car again, you got this Think Blue Trainer. Think Blue Trainer is kind of something that I'm surprised is in this car. It's just basically giving you a score out of 100 to say how good or bad your driving is in terms of fuel economy. Vehicle status, you can turn your stop start off if you want. This tells you stuff like if your fuel's running low, tyre pressures are dodgy, front radar sensors not working. Pretty standard across Seat, VW, the whole lot. Now, this is a little bit more interesting. This is the preset view that you will have in your instrument cluster. So at the moment, the classic view, which is kind of like out of the box, it just displays your speed and your gear, self-explanatory. View 1, I've got my consumption from start and range, and that appears in the actual clusters itself. I'll show you a little bit more on that later. To change what you want to appear on the cluster, again, you just slide your finger down or up, depending on what you want to view, and it's as simple as that. At any point you can press the setting button, and this gives you access to various menus within the infotainment display. ESP system, as you can see, off, on, or ESP Sport, which is used to engage launch control, which I can't use yet because it's not running. Tyre pressures, obviously that's where you set the tyre pressure. Self-explanatory, we don't need to concern ourselves with that. Light, because this one's the Plus, it's got LED and daytime running lights, so you can set them to obviously come on automatically and do various other things. adaptive cruise control. I've got it set into close. To be honest, even when it's set to close, it's not really that close. It's perfectly acceptable. It doesn't scare the car in front. To me, it's not driving too close to the car in front, so I just have it on close. Otherwise, it leaves a massive gap, and people behind you kind of think, oh, I'll just nip round you or overtake you, or why is he so far away from the car in front? And it's kind of a bit weird. So I do change it on the motorway. I change it to whatever the middle one is, medium, surprisingly. And it just gives me a bit more distance on the motorway at higher speeds. It's great. It's really good though. Obviously, if that wasn't active, it wouldn't be able to maintain distance and use the adaptive cruise control, so I leave that on. Ignore driver alert system. What a load of BS that is. Just warns you when you've been driving for too long and it says have a coffee. Sack that off. Parking and manoeuvring. Standard. It's just parking sensors front and rear, and the tones, etc. Nice. Self-explanatory again. Mirrors and wipers. When you're reversing, you can set it so that the passenger side mirror will tilt outwards and down a little bit. Just helps with, you know, watching for curbs, making sure you're not scuffing your alloys. Automatic wipers, etc. Open and closing. I'll turn that on because I've wanted that on. Wondered why that went on. So yeah, convenience opening is you hold the fob down, it'll unlock the doors and lower all the windows if you hold it, for obviously. If you want to lock it and you've left your windows down, you just hold the fob, unlock, and it will bring the windows back up. Central locking is self-explanatory. Yeah, so you can disable the automatic keyless lock and unlock function. It has to be done every time you lock the car. So you lock it manually with the key fob, and then within 5 seconds you touch the outside of the handle, and then you will not be able to unlock it using keyless entry, and hopefully that will stop any would-be thieves from exploiting the keyless entry security issues that we have at the minute. I also have an old school steering lock on this now as well, just to make it extra difficult for any thieves that want to have a go. Okay, so the main menu is, as you can see, pretty self-explanatory. The radio it's DAB, FM, whatever you need, and you've got obviously a full list of stations, whatever you want. I don't tend to use the main infotainment to select my stations. I do that via the virtual cockpit, so I'll show you that shortly. The media, it uses Android Auto. So let's see if I can demo this for you. So as you can see here, you can use your nav to do whatever you essentially want it to. Believe it or not, I didn't realise that this car doesn't have nav as standard. It has obviously a lot of things, but nav isn't one of them. I didn't realise when I bought the car either. So I rang the garage up and they said, yeah, it's not standard. So that was a bit of a shitter, which means I can't use the nav in the main virtual cockpit infotainment display. But Android Auto is pretty nice. You can use Google Maps on it, and it does the job. It's nice and quick. It doesn't seem to lag. It loads things up very nicely. So yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with that. It picks up my music apps, no problem. You know, it's not going to work at the minute because my phone's locked and it can't unlock it through the infotainment. So going into the sound setting, this is obviously where you can adjust all your volume settings and bass and stuff like that. The one thing for me that's kind of let the car down is the standard stereo on it. I don't particularly like it. I don't think it's loud. I don't really think it's got any like bass. There's no punch. Even in the older Tekka, had a bit of a kick to it. So I'm a bit disappointed in that. Even when you ramp up the bass and go any higher than that, it starts to distort. So if you're thinking about getting one, maybe think about upgrading your speakers with aftermarket ones, or just get the Beats audio package on it, because it's probably worth it if you like your tunes. Voice activation is another thing that isn't as standard, which again surprised me a little bit. So we've got all the buttons and steering wheel buttons for voice activation. You can buy it, of course, but it's about like 200 quid just to have it set up, and it's not really worth it. It's more of a convenience and nice to have. So yeah, it's a bit gimmicky, innit? Phone works nicely enough though. You can read your text messages, the car reads them for you as well, so that's also a pretty decent touch. And as far as infotainment goes, that is pretty much it. If I press the mode button, I've obviously got my driver select modes. Eco mode, very briefly, dulls the throttle response massively. Steering is very light, suspension is very compliant, and it also puts the automatic gearbox in coast essentially when you're not on the throttle. So if you're going down a hill, it will knock itself out of gear and just coast down, which is a bit weird really. You can feel the car kind of speed up, and yeah, it's just a bit weird. We've been able to roll, and then when you go back on the accelerator or brake, it puts itself into gear, and you can just feel it a little bit. It just gives for a nice smooth feeling. So I tend to drive it around at the moment in normal mode, which it will not let you coast. It changes up anywhere between 2 and 3 on part throttle, and steering's still light, suspension's still comfortable, and it's just a normal driving situation. Whack it into sport, and it becomes a different animal. The suspension is, you can feel the entire car stiffen up. It does have adaptive suspension, and you can feel the car tighten up. Although over bumpy roads, it's not intolerable. You know, it's pretty bouncy and kind of, you can feel it. It's harsh, but it's not something you can't deal with, especially if you've got the ability to turn it back off as well. I would highly recommend it. I haven't put the car through any corners properly yet, so I can't tell you how it handles, but first impressions are there's a lot of grip there. It's not overly harsh, but you can certainly feel the car stiffen up. Steering wheel, sorry, not the steering wheel, steering feel, still a little bit light for me when it's in sport mode, but maybe at higher speeds it's gonna weight up a little bit more. And the exhaust noise, it sounds very good. I've done a video on the noise of the car, and I appreciate it probably doesn't come across very well on camera. You probably think it sounds a bit poor, but when you're actually sat here and driving along, I think it sounds pretty decent. It sounds really gruff. It's probably the resonator that they have in the car, and maybe has a little bit of fake noise piped into it, but it still sounds good. When I've had the windows down, again, I think it sounds pretty gruff. You've also got a nice little DSG noise. It doesn't do a full-on fart like a Golf R or a Seat Leon Cupra, but it does do a little chuff, which is quite nice. And who knows, in time, as the car gets more miles put on it, hopefully that'll get louder and a bit more gurgly and poppy. So that should be pretty decent. In terms of individual driver setup, let's have a look, because I haven't had a look myself. So what have we got here? Sport and normal, leave it in normal. Drive, eco, sport, normal. Sport. Adaptive cruise control. Normal, sport and eco. That's interesting. I bet that's how quickly it'll accelerate if a car in front moves over or speeds up. Engine sound, 3 different types: Eco, Sport and Normal. Sport, obviously. This Sport Select suspension, we'll wipe that in Sport as well. So I'm going to do another video as well on the main virtual cockpit, so you can have a look at that. And just because I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be, we'll stop it there, we'll wrap it up, and you know, it's dirty, isn't it?